Hello there, and welcome to another Commodore 64 game playthrough. And boy, have I got a special treat for you today. I was going to do Chase HQ, and then this game appeared sort of next on the list, and I thought I could not resist having a go through this. So, this is Chernobyl, the simulator. So, and I kid you not. So, it's not a game, it's a simulation game. There's no scores or results or anything like that. You just basically simulate running a nuclear power plant. So, obviously, this is really topical at the moment because of the Sky HBO production of the mini series called Chernobyl, which to be honest is absolutely fascinating and fantastic. I wholeheartedly suggest that you give it a watch because it is very gripping, informative, and it's so realistic. I mean, the amount of details that they've put in it is just ridiculous. So, I wholeheartedly suggest you watch it. I remember it first time around. It was 1986 when this all happened, and the big story is the fact that they tried to cover so much of it up, and the irony is that the Soviet government tried to sort of cover up what they were doing, and the Swedish were the ones who dobbed them in it because the Swedish nuclear people, their alarms all went off, and they phoned up Russia and said, "Do you have a problem?" And Russia said no, and they said, "Oh, would you mind if we then report it to the sort of the world agency, if you like?" And they went, "Oh, right, maybe we do have a problem," and it sort of snowballed from there. But they kept underplaying it, so absolutely fascinating story about what happened in the aftermath. So in the game, anyway, what I've done, it's all based mainly on keyboard commands. There's a little bit of joystick to go amongst the gauges, but what I've done with the keyboard commands is I've raised the rods and I've started up the sort of plant, and I've turned the power on, which then automatically turns the generators on. And as you can see, we've got our two little dials going up, which is the power of the core and then the power that it's generating as well. So they will all go roughly to the top, which will be great when they do. Okay, absolutely superb. So then you can go to the core, and you can see the core in operation. So at the bottom there's the temperature of everything that's going on. So I've got 900 degrees at the core, which is warm, hot, very hot, and then you can see everything that's going on there as well, which is brilliant. You get to see all the different valves that are open. You need your joystick just to bomb around. You can open and shut these valves if you want to do that. It automatically does a lot of it anyway for you, so you don't have to worry about it too much. So, if I wanted to open up the auxiliary 3 process bleed or whatever that meant to be, I think it's open V. Oh, is it just open 54? Yeah, so I can open that and then I can close it 54. There is a manual with this. It goes into an incredible amount of detail. I would probably suggest that you either print it off or screen grab it or whatever, because it is quite an involved process, and it doesn't give you all the answers either. It just basically tells you what the processes are operating a nuclear power plant, but it doesn't actually give you much sort of help in the commands to use. So it's a little bit of trial and error. So I'm generating electricity, and to be honest, that's it with the game. You turn it on and you turn it off. Basically, is the way it works. This is quite cool. It shows you sort of layout of the power plant. Again, it doesn't really have much relevance to the game. If you want to sort of see how all these things work, great. These days we've got Wikipedia, haven't we? But yeah, you can sort of see what's going on through there, which is quite cool as well. I just want to double check my gauges, because what happens through the game is that you just have to keep an eye on all the sort of levels. So nothing's getting too hot, the pressure isn't getting too high. You've got to be careful of the any radiation leaks, which you can then open or close valves to adjust. But everything there seems to be quite sort of cool. You can also test the alarms, which is quite cool. So we are as a buzzer. Oh dear, 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 dear. And I think you can check on. There's another one. I think there's a bell feature. Bell. Oh, there we are. Ding, ding, ding. So at least you know what they are as well. So it's quite cool. And there's also an alarms panel, so you can see. And if you're not sure what all these things relate to, you just type in the number. So L1 is an input valve, so you can see if it's been closed or not. And then if you go to there, you can sort of see what number one is in the sort of map. which I'm just going to bomb across, and that looks all quite cool. So yeah, so you can, open one, close one, and it closes it, and I need to open it again. And I suppose if you play around with these options enough, you can break the nuclear power plant and whatever. So I've never managed to actually sort of blow the thing up. Give me time, and I'm sure that I'll do that as well. So the whole story of Chernobyl was that there was 4 reactors in Chernobyl, and the 4th reactor they were doing a test, and what they wanted to do was to see if they could simulate a lower power situation, and then the lower power situation would see if it had enough power to operate the sort of emergency turbines. I'm paraphrasing slightly because it is highly technical what happened, but because of a series of human and technological failures, the whole plant went meltdown. The first thing was that they delayed it by about 10 hours, which meant that the people who were trained weren't really there. They were on the night shift basically. Also, because the plant had been running at low power for that length of time, it had built up xenon, which had poisoned the reactor, which had meant that there was all this gas that would stop a nuclear reactor working. Yes, it's going quite well there, isn't it? I'm just checking my rods. Brilliant. And then also what they found out was that the emergency system, which I'm going to simulate now by typing it in, scram, no, not scream. So this is the emergency system in operation. What Scram did was how do I turn that off? Go away. Yeah, all right. What's the emergency system did was actually make the situation worse, because introduced graphite into the nuclear reactor, and this was a known flaw. They knew about it. They knew that this was going to happen, but they just chose to ignore it. And that's them actually pressing the emergency button was the thing that made it explode, because it just put all this graphite in the reactor. The reactor blew up, and no more reactor 4. So that was the reason why it went. But if you want to know more, look it up on Wiki, because it is highly technical about how it all happened. But just as fascinating was the human story. Who suffered, who lost out. They're still cleaning up now. 30 odd years later, they are still paying the sort of price. There's a large percentage of the GDPR of the Ukraine is spent dealing with Chernobyl, the survivors, the people who were relocated, and so on. So it's an absolutely sort of fascinating story. I mean, the doc does tell it very well, because they bring both elements to it, the sort of technical, what happened, but also then the whole aftermath. As you can see on my little alarm panel, I've got L13, which is the scram. So that's the button that I've pressed, and the reactor is gradually dying down, and as you can see, there's low power and everything else like that. So you can manually shut the thing down as well. There's commands that do that, roughly the opposite of what I've been doing. So you sort of extract the rods and you close some valves and things, but that's the general. Yeah. The other thing I've done, because I was playing around with the buttons, if you press F5, you can change the color of your font. Don't know why. Don't know if that was a big deal in Russia, but yeah, that's the game. So, yes, Chernobyl, the computer game. Not what I was going to do today, but it's a bit of a surprise to me and probably to you as well. But there you are. It was one hell of a job trying to find a decent ROM as well. So yeah, good luck finding a ROM that's going to work for this. The ones that are mainly available, it crashes or doesn't work properly if you type in gauges. But the one that I found works okay. So yeah, if you want to do that as well. The Commodore was quite famous for having these slightly weird simulation games. The one I'm going to do on the channel is called Southern Belle, and it's actually a steam engine simulator, and it's the same type of game as this. The idea is that you have to put in commands, and you basically you put coal in, and you've got to do things with steam and valves, and you've got to hit certain marks by certain times, and it's quite a cool game, even if it sounds a bit nerdy. But no more nerdy than running a nuclear power plant, I guess. So yeah, all these alarms are just because the pressure and the temperature's gone down in the reactor. That's all. It's not going to blow. I promise you. L81. What's that then? Yeah, low steam line temperature. That's fine. So yes, so that was one hell of a treat for me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them below. I will help as much as I can in anybody actually trying to work out how to play the game in the first place, because it's not easy. And please, if you enjoyed everything, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.